Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special race, the Merdeka SJ55 National Day Special Race, coming at you live from the Suzuka International Circuit. My name is Matt Palmer, and in the studio we have Chan Wei Han.
Yes, hi everyone, hi Cairo, hi Max, hi everyone who's tuning in. We are so excited to be bringing to you this one-of-a-kind special event that we've all come together to execute. And we've got such a huge participation here. We've got so many drivers from all around Asia, not just Singapore and Malaysia. And we're just so excited for whatever that's going to happen later on tonight.
Absolutely. Amongst the countries represented are, of course, Singapore, Malaysia, Brunei, as well as Macau, Hong Kong, some drivers from mainland China, a driver representing the UK and Ireland club, as well as a Thai driver right at the top of the field. Hariwat Chukantoi is currently has the fastest time in practice, so perhaps he could be one to watch out for in this very, very special race indeed.
So as we have a look around at the practice lap times, we are coming towards the tail end of the practice session, and he does in fact have the fastest lap time. We've also got a couple of three other drivers, Eric Wong, Saiful Arifin, and Ahmad Norazam, who've managed to break the 2-minute long barrier. Now, of course, we have used iRacing's dynamic weather for the night, so what this means is that the lap times, depending on the weather, you could see drivers setting sometimes faster lap times at one point in the race and slower lap times at another point in the race if the weather changes mid-race, iRacing being reliant on weather. So this is Eric Wong. He comes top speed through 130. Now, we've seen from the previous warm-up race during Wednesday night that this was where he made one of an overtaking move across the grass, and we'd very much like to see some similar racing action happen again tonight. So he's going to come around, completing yet another of his practice laps. He will set a lap time of 1:59.94, which is not fast enough to best his previous lap time.
Absolutely. So there's going to be quite a few drivers in with a shout of taking that pole position. Shukran, of course, in first position, Eric Wong in second, Saiful Arifin in third, and Ahmad Norazam in fourth position. Those must be the four guys that will be vying for pole position. Of course, a lot of the drivers further on down the field, I could see Ilham Nabi, I could see Simon Sanchez, I could see Farid Yan and Bruno Cardozo as well. Perhaps some other drivers who are using this practice session not as a sort of personal practice for qualifying, but rather a longer sort of game plan. Perhaps they're running longer stints just to try and figure out what their race stints are going to be. But really quite a lot of very, very quick drivers in the server today.
Certainly. Now, the drivers tonight do have 2 fast repairs. So what that means is that, as drivers go about their race, if they do come to face some incidents, they will have the opportunity to reset their cars twice, free repairs rather, fast repairs, and that will allow them to get back racing faster than usual. Now, the race length is 45 minutes. That is 5 minutes longer than the usual official races. So this means that you would see that the pit window would be shifted by just a little bit. And drivers, just like the official races, drivers do have a 50% limit on the fuel cell. That means that drivers would definitely have to make the pit for fuel.
Absolutely. Looking at info in the Hong Kong cars, a very interesting livery out there, and I do have to have a quick shout out to all the creativity of all the drivers out there on the field for this race. We have a very vibrant community doing paint schemes for these cars, and that has really come across from Eric Wong's very patriotic livery car. We also have 2 Malaysian style 488s, I believe, and anyways, 2 Malaysian Ferraris, and on the field, as well as a whole bunch of cars from Hong Kong and Macau repping their nations as well. So this is going to be a very colourful grid indeed.
Certainly. So this is Sek Yin Ho. He lives in Hong Kong, and he is in fact also one of the admins of a Chinese sim racing community called Sim Racing Forum China, or SRFC. You can visit their website at srfcworld.com.cn, weekend, if I recall correctly, and they are one of the key players in the Chinese sim racing ecosystem, and we're just so glad that they can come racing with us here tonight.
Absolutely. This does, of course, open up the opportunity, perhaps in the future, of inviting a few more nations to come across. For those of you who are perhaps not in the know with the previous announcements that we have made, there is a little bit of a competition within a competition to see whether which of the top drivers will be fastest, whether we have the top Malaysian or the top Singaporean. So if the top Singaporean is ahead of all the other Malaysians, we're going to have a little bit of a change to the end of the race, and vice versa. We will, of course, you will of course find that out right at the end of the race. It's going to be very exciting indeed.
So now we have a look at Ryan Lam. He's of course representing Hong Kong with a couple of other Hong Kong drivers also on the grid. They are sporting a, of course, with iRacing, when they introduced the spec maps onto the iRacing paint shop, it would mean that drivers would be able to become even more creative with the way they do their paints. You can have matte paints or chrome gloss paints. Of course, they've done all of that to their favor, as you could see with that beautifully designed Hong Kong paint scheme. It's similar with the Macau paint scheme as well. The whole car being one single color, but with such an interesting texture.
And there, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, just underneath the mini map, we have the little radio bug that will come in once in a while. That'll let us know in the commentary box, as well as at home, that there'll be drivers on their radios. We will be able to tune into their frequencies and try and sneak into and try and get a sense of what they're doing out there on the circuit right now. Jasmine Jolly has a slightly different kind of patriotic livery. He's repping Petronas right now. For those of you probably not in the know, not only are they big sponsors of Mercedes, but they used to be big sponsors of BMW, both in Formula Racing and in GT.
Well, certainly, because we all know of Petronas as being the main sponsor, the team sponsor, in fact, of Petronas AMG. Mercedes AMG Petronas, sorry, I don't watch too much Formula 1 to keep up with that. And I think for us here living in this part of the world, it's just such pride that we have an indigenous regional regional brand that is so very much involved in the top level of motor racing. And of course, Jai being one of the fast guys in all of Malaysia, in fact, in Malaysian sim racing, I think we can also expect good lap times from him.
Absolutely. Petronas have been involved in international motorsports for a very long period of time. They even sent a Malaysian driver out to do the British Salute Car Championship back in the 80s with that thunderous Sierra Cosworth. You can learn more about that in the Garang Racing social media and websites. That was part of the genesis of Petronas. Of course, APRC Rally Champions, Production World Rally Champion with Karanjit Singh, and involved very heavily in the Super GT Championship, as well as their Formula 1 involvement with first of all Sauber, then BMW, then right now with Mercedes. So a brand that has a long and storied connection with motorsports.
And this is Mitchell Hui, very much a representing Singapore as well. He's got this interesting looking paint scheme. Of course, he wasn't present during the Wednesday session because I did come to learn that he has still been serving his national service, just I had been earlier this year, and he wasn't able to make it on Wednesday. But he's come and raced. He's coming to race with us tonight, and it's just great to see even more Singaporeans coming on board. With this being, despite this being Malaysia's Singapore event, we've got such great representation from all over Asia.
Absolutely, and who knows, maybe we might see more drivers coming in from overseas. It's definitely raised the profile of this event immeasurably, and we hope we can make this a bit more of an annual affair. We've had quite a lot of positive responses for this event, and we hope this is going to be a very, very popular race, not just for this year, but perhaps for many years to come. I'm Fred Yan right now. out there with the Autohouse FCR car. And that's a team that currently runs in the AIMC Championship. And it's nice to see some of the guys in that championship repping their liveries in these GT3 cars.
Yep, of course, Farid being one of the iRacing drivers also who have been part of the Malaysian community for such a long time. With his Autohouse FCR paint scheme, I just so remember seeing this paint scheme from the Sunday AIMC series, and it's just great seeing all of them being part of this big Asian community as well. So we're now progressing into qualifying. So the drivers will have 15 minutes to qualify. If I recall, it's going to be 4 laps, but this is going to be. Oh, this is open. I just forgot. I made the wrong setting.
No, this is close.
Oh, this is close.
Yeah, close,
right.
close.
Okay.
Yeah, because I switched the camera too quickly, and you see they're exiting from the same pit.
Oh, okay. Okay, understand.
Okay, let me pull up the telemetries for you guys.
Absolutely, that just goes to show that we perhaps have one of the best directors in the league. Switching cameras very quickly indeed. I believe Karo Halang right now has a brand new Oregon Engineering broadcast box. And I trust that that's going to be a very, very nice.
Looks like close, open qualifying.
Oh, it is open qualifying.
Open qualifying.
Right, my mistake.
Okay.
My mistake. I do apologize to everyone who's racing and watching.
This should be interesting.
Open.
Absolutely, because now not only do they have to worry about their lap times, they now have to deal with traffic. Now the key with getting a good qualifying lap in during an open session is not only to position a car perfectly on track to get that gap and that clear air ahead for the entirety of a lap, but of course you have to do that while still worrying about trying to drive that GT3 car as fast as humanly possible around this majestic Suzuka circuit.
And this is Eric Wong as he comes along the backstretch and goes top speed around 130. So he's of course one of the drivers to look out for in terms of lap time. So he did set a practice lap time of 1:59.469, very much similar to his lap time during the Wednesday warm-up session. As he comes across the final corner, let's see what lap time he's able to set for himself as he comes across the line. He puts down an outlap.
Yeah, outlap.
So this should be qualifying lap.
This should be his
qualifying lap, and now he's going to dive into the first 2 corners. Very, very tricky indeed. You have to brake very carefully going out into turn 1, and now coming out of turn 2 into the fantastic S's here at Suzuka. You never know quite which gear you're supposed to be in. Are you supposed to be in 3rd gear or 4th gear? What sort of throttle position you need to carry through the 2 corners here? It really is very critical in order to try and get a good lap time around here. It's really a place where a driver can really prove his abilities. Now coming around Dunlop curve here again, multiple angles and multiple trajectories possible through that corner, and into Degner. Degner 1, lots of curve there being taken by Eric Wong, and then into Degner 2 on the way up into the hairpin. This looks like it's going to be a very quick lap indeed.
Yeah, as he comes around the hairpin, this is hard braking into the hairpin. Now, of course, with taking this corner, you can choose to take the apex, and sometimes you can choose not to take the apex as you take the corner because it is spanked quite a bit. Goes full throttle around this fast, pretty much a right curved stretch. With this car, it's all about trying to get the right balance as he goes down, braking for a spoon. He takes an early entry. Of course, that's a very good line into the spoon corner, and he takes the second of the left-hander, going easy along the exit. Makes good use of the exit curbs, and he's going to angle himself towards the middle of the backstretch and back out towards the right. And we'll see how it goes from here, as he does have some cars in the horizon. Is it going to affect him as he comes upon that car? Oh, that was so close, and that has ruined his qualifying lap.
That's very unfortunate for Eric Wong. You can see that the car ahead was trying to do the right thing by letting Eric go through at full throttle, but unfortunately just the wrong place, the wrong time. But he still manages to nail the Casio triangle absolutely spot on through there and across the line, where we see a lap time from him. Fortunately, it looks like due to that off-track incident, he might have to go around again. Very unfortunate for Eric Wong, but we know he's got the pace to go quick. Jezra Jali is the next man across the line, and he is going to cross and effectively become the pole position man, the only man who's set a lap so far.
So have a look at Ryan Lam. Now, what's really interesting is, if you have played, okay, let's just wait till he comes across start finish line. He will set a qualifying lap time. It could have well been his outlap. So if you have been playing the Simbin's Race 07 franchise, if you do look through some of the names of some of the AI cars, right, you would notice that one name would go by the name of Kakit Lam. And that is in fact Ryan Lam, who had his name immortalized in Race 07, and he's come onto iRacing and he's now racing with us.
Absolutely. We have some sim racing royalty in there. I remember playing Race 07. It was actually a fairly good game for its time.
Yeah, and what's so amazing is that that title, it's still very much with I do have quite a slow laptop, and I'm able to run the Race 07 on that. So it's one of those racing sims that if you don't exactly have the best hardware, you can still get away with running that sim. And it's also one of the it's pretty much it was in fact a successor to the extremely popular GTR2 simulator, which kind of broke ground for all of sim racing, in fact. And I think that is to come to think of it, was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, and it was released. This is Eric Wong. He comes across the final corner, and hopefully this time he'll be able to dial down a qualifying lap time. He comes across with a lap time of 1:59.675, which puts him up on provisional pole.
Absolutely, that's the first of the seriously quick lap times. We would have seen a quicker lap time from Eric Wong, I believe, on that first lap, but unfortunately, due to that off-track excursion, he is going to have to take home that 1:59.6. So Shukran here on his way around, and Ryan Lam is about to exit the Casio triangle there. Very nice and neat, very smooth driving style from Ryan Lam, the man who's immortalized in one of my favorite video games. Do leave a comment down below if you love Race 07, and that's definitely given him a little bit of a boost, perhaps 2 minutes, 0.090. He goes up into second position.
We've also got drivers Kelly Spoon and Yuan Xilin, who've moved up to third and fourth respectively, and Muhaimin, he's going to come across the start finish line, but he has already set himself a lap time of 2:02.571. So many interesting drivers, in fact. And this is Parawat Shuka. He set the fastest qualifying lap time. Let's see what he'll do as he comes across. He'll set a lap time of 2:03.86, and he's got some traffic coming upon him.
Absolutely. Parawat might need to either head into the pits or reposition himself out on the track there. We know he can be very, very fast indeed. He was so close to breaking into that 1:58 barrier, which is incredibly fast for a GT3 car around here. And let's see if he's able to do that by the end of the session.
Let's go to Shaiful.
Our friend Saiful Arifin. Sorry, Max.
That's right.
Saiful Arifin coming thundering down the backstretch into the entry of 130. So you can tell that drivers do have to lift as they take the corner. It's different from Formula 1 cars, going hard on the brakes into the Casio triangle. Taking both apexes very well, coming along the exit of the final corner. So his practice lap time was 1:59.665, breaking the 2-minute barrier. Let's see if he's able to do that this time. But he does so, in fact, 1:59.945, which sets him up in second.
Absolutely, that's a very quick lap time considering he has to deal with traffic out there as well in the AIMC Championship that he's been used to for the past few races. He's had to deal with. He only had to deal with closed qualifying, single car qualifying. So perhaps he's just getting himself dialed into the new style of driving. I believe that's Fred Ting right now from Brunei, another one of the interlopers into this. A more than welcome interloper, I must say, to this Malaysia-Singapore battle. We love to have all these other nations out here as well. Again, repping the Petronas Cintium livery. Definitely a unique way of showing your Malaysian flair. But he does dive into the pits there, so he's going to maintain his position in 19th.
This is the Don himself, Mark Lang, who's come out to do another qualifying lap. He does slow down to let the car pass. And a little bit of a story about his paint scheme. He did in fact register this paint scheme back in the day. I think it was 6 years ago where he did commission this paint scheme. And when I had a chat with him in real life, he did share that this paint scheme was to kind of make sense of the kind of balance that everyone does have to make, in having like a good and bad, a yin and yang and stuff like that. And this paint scheme kind of epitomizes that very well, because being a racing driver, you have to embody elements of being good with the car, knowing when to become aggressive and knowing when to just to go all out. And of course, if you have a look at the rear bumper, that is the image of Don Corleone himself from The Godfather. And of course, in the community, he is known as the Godfather, the Don himself.
Absolutely, you can see he's really pushing the car around there, perhaps trying to get a little bit of a feel of the car and get some temperature into the machine. Starting on a foot in, another driver with that Malaysia Prihatin themed car coming across the line. Let's see how quick he's able to go through that. It looks like a 2:03.292 is Shahroz's mark at the moment, down in 22nd position, although I'm sure he will be able to improve very nicely. Now going through the Casio triangle right now, Young, one of our Hong Kong driver, he's going to try and push that car. Aguri Young coming across the line there. It looks like he has stopped the clock at 2:03.3, so he still remains in 16th position, although he does have enough time to try for another lap.
Because we're coming to the 11-minute mark in qualifying, and drivers will have 3 minutes plus of time to set their qualifying laps down. So, we've only got 2 drivers who've broken the 2-minute barrier at this point. So I think it could sometimes be due to the fact that with this being an open qualifying session, yes, you do get slipstream, but sometimes when you do have other cars in your way, it becomes quite difficult to push as well at certain points. So that could explain why we see less drivers with much faster lap times.
Absolutely. I mean, Yan now has a bit of an issue up ahead, because of course the slipstream can be both a blessing and a curse, because in the corner it does rob the car behind of downforce, which is super critical in getting a very quick lap time around here. As Amir Farahyan has found out that he's just lost that absolute last kilogram of downforce, and unfortunately he spits his car sideways.
And this is Sid Yin. Once again, he comes around the Casio triangle in that brilliant pink SRFC paint scheme. With, of course, this is that a lot of autographs on that car. Very, very nice to see. And he comes around with a lap time of 2:04.15. Same at 8th position.
And that, I believe, is Wei In Leong in the background, coming up to a top 10 position. 2 minutes, 0.575 seconds. He would be, I believe, fairly happy with that. He still has enough time to try for another lap, and perhaps he is going to do so in that fantastic shimmering livery.
This is our friend Surin Silveraju, who lives in Singapore. Very nice to see him racing with us today. Of course, very, very brilliant choice of paint scheme as well. Red and white for Ferrari, and very, very much possibly representing his home country as well. It's also got a bit of heat from what is the 488 of Calix in the background. So we'll see if any moves emerge from here. Look, guys, look, this is qualifying lap time. The focus is on lap times, but sometimes you do have to try to find your way around cars. You also sometimes try to have to defend yourself as you try to get the best lap times around. Going hard over the Degner curbs, very nice.
Yeah, and you can see Silverado perhaps trying to give way in the most minimalist way possible, you could say, just doing the least possible just to try and let the car pass, because sometimes you do have to let the car pass purely and simply because having a car right up your tail might give some problems out there. Just rejoined us, another driver in the rear-engined rough, I believe. coming across the line. He is going to set a lap time of Fortunately, I didn't see where he came out there on the lap time. Perhaps he's on a outlap, but a nice little livery there at 2 minutes 0.801. So he'll try and improve on that, I am sure, in the upcoming laps. But quite remarkable to see those little modified Porsches going quite well indeed, even though they are quite an old car.
We'll have a look at Fire once again. Is he going to be able to put in a good lap time at this point, because he's yet to dial in a qualifying lap time? This is going to mean that he has 3 minutes to go to the end of this session, so he's going to come around the final corner with a lap time of 2:02.965, which sets him at a grid place of 20th.
Yeah, fun fact about the Outer House FCR team, there are in fact 2 real-life touring car teams racing in the MSF Championship who's sort of come together in order to bring us this fantastic esports team that's really growing in leaps and bounds. It was an AIMC, that is the Adrenaline Impact Championship. They were just doing that, and now they're sort of branching out and doing other things in GT3 racing, so it's going to be very interesting indeed. But meanwhile, Shukran is going through the Casio Triangle. Let's see what lap time he is able to pull out. It looks like he is, on my screen, it looks like he's doing a 6:04, but let's see if that is accurate. It's a 2:06.616, so unfortunately Shukran is still there in 28th position.
This is Eric Wong, who's going to make his way around the Casio Triangle for the final time within this small qualifying session. His previous lap time was, of course, they did put him to pole position, 1:59.675. Is he going to be able to best his lap time as he makes his way around the final corner, around the start-finish line, and he does not improve on his previous qualifying lap time, but he still holds on to the race lead. We've got just a minute or so left till the end of qualifying. I think some drivers are still out there turning their last qualifying lap, so we'll see if anyone's able to push.
Looks like Andy So is still out there repping Hong Kong in that beautiful red, deep red livery. It sort of reminds me of the Mazda So Red, and in my books that's a very, very good thing indeed. I really like those that Mazda color. I'm thinking about getting my car painted in that fairly shortly, hopefully. But in any case, it looks like he has gone up in the second and third sectors. He's set a personal best and improved through there, but he's dropped a little bit of time coming through the spoon curve here. So let's see what he can do in the final sectors of the lap, coming up through the support race paddock and diving into 130R. Let's see what his throttle trace is like. Just the barest of lifts, just enough to try and get around the corner there. Now he's going to dive on the brakes, coming through the Casio Triangle there. Hard on the curves on the right, hard on the left, all the way up to the exit. And now it's full throttle all the way to the finish line. This is the last chance for Andy So to try and improve. Let's see if he's capable of doing that. It's a 2:01.7, so that puts Andy So still in 13th position.
So we've come to the end of the qualifying session, which will mean that we're going to begin racing this instant. So as we await the grid to appear at this point. So we do have, starting from pole position, is going to be a Singapore Malaysia front row. Singapore being, because from pole position is Eric Wong with a blistering lap time of 1:59.675, and Saiful Arifin begins from second place with a lap time of 1:59.945. Ryan Lam from third, and Jency Lin will begin from fourth position. Pariwat Shukan from fifth, and Amanor Sam in sixth. Calix Poon in seventh. Jose Kian will begin from 8th. Jai Swin Charlie from 9th. Leong Wai In will begin in 10th. Simon Sanchez in 11th. And Michelle Wee from 12th.
Absolutely. And that an interesting mix of drivers up there. We can see Andy So starting in 13th position, just with that last qualifying lap time. Urshad is up there in 16th. He's been improving by leaps and bounds. Finally getting back into there and stretching his legs in sim racing. Aguri Young in 17th position, right next to Muhammad Muhaimin, who, if you will see during the race, his Ferrari is painted in a very a patriotic Malaysian livery to match that of Eric Wong's white and red Singaporean machine. We have Fred Ting from Brunei in 21st position and Azra Nazli in 24th position. I'm not too sure what car he's in because he has had a reputation of liking those GT40s, but we do have a GT40 on the track, don't we?
And these are the other drivers who have formed the rest of our grid. Afiq Fadlan, Kelvin Ha, Mark Lang, Muhammad Shukran, Ilham Halabi, Bruno Cardoso, Zainul Hazim, Muhammad Fazil, Surin Selvaraju, Jaisri Junos, and K. So this rounds out your 35 strong grid, and the drivers are just about to begin rolling off. This is going to be a rolling start with the safety car, of course, the Porsche safety car to lead them through 130R and onto the race start.
Absolutely, the Porsche safety car, absolutely iconic in road racing here on the iRacing service. It is a slightly unusual car because most safety cars are indeed road cars, but that one is a modified race car. You can actually still see the roll cage through the windows there. So perhaps a little bit of asset swapping, which is nice to see from a programming point of view. But in any case, the nerves are beginning to build as they go through the Casio triangle there. Eric Wong and Cypher Arifin on the front row of the grid. And it looks like Eric Wong's going to take an early run up to the line. He's got the pace of the field and he has gone. He has pushed as hard as he possibly can to try and get up into position. And it looks like Eric Wong has indeed gone for it. I believe it's a green flag.
It's a great start by Eric Wong with Saiful Arifin and Yuan Xilin, who's moved up to third. And we've got Ryan Lam, who's putting the heat on Lin himself, and also various other drivers who've all actually begun to file to go towards a single file. So, I think with the early start from Eric Wong, it did result in a less packed field as they made their way through the start finish line, and everybody is making their way well through the first few corners, the SS. So Pariwat Shuka makes his way up to fourth around the outside of Ryan Lam, but he's probably going to go side by side with Lam through this section as they go to diagonal, very close there. Lam goes around, and this is a contact so early on in the race, and he's up in the
That is a massive accident there, and Ryan Lam now in the middle of the track. Luckily managed to get himself out of the way there. We should still see a green flag running, just a local yellows to cover that there. But very unfortunate for Ryan Lam there. They were battling door to door, and unfortunately around Suzuka, it is deceptively narrow around here, one of the narrower circuits on the Formula 1 calendar. And even though it doesn't seem like it, watching from the outside, and unfortunately Degner has claimed another victim.
This has resulted in a four-way battle for the lead, but of course with that said, it's still quite the drivers are still quite spaced apart. Lin is putting a lot of pressure on Saiful Arifin as he comes around the 130, going a bit wide on the curves. What's interesting is if you do have a closer look at the Ford GTO, it would appear that he's changed his pace scheme a little, but UNC does run, he does parody what's called the Vapid Bullet car in Grand Theft Auto 5. He's managed to make a pace scheme of that here on the iRacing Sport GT. So that's very, very apt, and of course he's putting this up for all of us to enjoy here.
Absolutely, and if you notice on the nose of the car, he's carrying the flags of what appears to be Singapore and Malaysia, along with two other flags there. Haven't quite had a good look at the car this weekend, but very nice touch to that livery that was made for this event. So Wasilin in third position, one place up from where he started.
So this is already starting to shape up to become a good battle that will last for the rest of the race. So right now, we will not expect this battle for second place to end anytime soon as they go hard over the curbs through Dagna. So both of these corners, the curbs are quite big for the cars to go over. So they're now coming into the hairpin, hard on the brakes they go. It's going to be a tight left-hander at this point.
Absolutely. With Lin coming out of the corner there, he has got a little bit of a challenge up ahead. He is within 4/10 of a second, 5/10 of a second of Safarifin. In fact, that gap is getting shorter by the kilometer, but he has got a menacing Toei behind him. The Thai driver will be pushing as hard as he can to try and get up into the position, but there's Ho Sek-yin off the track there. That looks like the spoon curve, getting a very challenging corner there, and it looks like he just lost downforce halfway through the corner there.
And unfortunately, he's come into contact with another car as he tried to rejoin the track, but the car still appeared to be on all fours at this point. So this is Ahmad Norizam, who's coming under pressure from Jai-3 Charlie, and this is the battle for P6. Now, we've seen them race during our Sunday night AIMC series, and they're bringing this all the way up to the GT3 level in this specific race session. Now, of course, these two drivers go way back, many years ago, as we, throughout the years as we did all our Asian racing leagues. We've always seen these drivers racing about, and right now the battle is just still going strong.
Absolutely. Ahmad Norizam, he is repping the Outer House FCR garage car, and Jezrin Jelly, who has actually always, I believe, run a Petronas themed livery, and he's definitely taken a liking to that BMW Z4, one of his favorite cars. They will be battling on for quite a while, I am sure. Now, that was Ho Sek-yin, who has reappeared out on the track ahead of this man, Michel Hui. He is in 15th position. He's dropped down 3 places, but he'll be pushing as hard as he can to try and get past that big BMW. But there's a car off the road now. One of the McLarens has gone off the road ahead of them. That will move those guys up places. That was Mohammed Mohaimin, who has spun out in his McLaren.
That's unfortunate for him. It means that he'll begin to lose so many positions hand over fist as he's gone down into the 20s. Sek-yin, we're riding on his rear bumper, his gearbox camera, as we observe Michel Wee just behind him and make his way around the hairpin and full throttle throughout this ride, this long rightward section. So, of course, this is also one of those overtaking zones, obviously in preparation right before the entry into the spoon corner, which they are coming onto now. And good use of racing line. Of course, over here you have to take your car around this corner slower than you would expect, due to the fact that this corner is off camber. And good use of the exit curbs. So it's going to be Sek-yin who offers Michel with some of the slipstream through this stretch.
Absolutely, and of course in there he's going to be in those rear mirrors to try and defend Bruno Cardoso is in 18th position. He's gone up 12 positions. He was perhaps a bit of a surprise from qualifying, in that usually he qualifies quite well in these sorts of machinery, but right now he's down in 18th position. He did start 12 places further behind, but it looks like he's enjoying a little bit of a last to first battle, and so is this man, Ilham Halabi. And now a little secret with Ilham Halabi, he really does try to start from the back of the field. For him, even though he has a wealth of experience, he's been racing in iRacing since the start of the platform, but he does enjoy wheel-to-wheel racing more than virtually anything else. So for him, it's all about the overtaking maneuvers. So you're going to see these two drivers really scythe their way up through the field and bring you some very entertaining racing indeed.
In fact, this is right at the mid-pack, and what's so amazing about all these races, I've gone over it over and over again, but you've always got good racing action that takes place throughout the field. So this is the battle for P16, currently held by that driver, and we're now with Tengku Irsyad. Oh, a bit of contact by the drivers in front, and this is Tengku Irsyad, who sits ahead of Surin. Of course, he's made the overtaking move into 24th. And we now ride on board Tengku Irsyad as we see if he's able to make any overtaking moves. Surin's turn to turn the heat up on Tengku Irsyad, and we'll see if anything can emerge from here.
Absolutely, Tengku Irsyad usually driving the Dante's Toda Motorsport machinery, but he is the man. I sort of erroneously said that Mohaimin was driving this car, but I believe there was a bit of a change, and Tengku Irsyad is in fact driving one of the two quote-unquote Malaysian cars, Tengku Irsyad with Shukran, and they're driving the two Malaysian Ferraris decked out to sort of match Eric Wong's beautiful red and white livery machine further up the road. So who knows, maybe these guys can scythe their way up through the field, although Tengku Irsyad does start, is in 24th position, 8 places behind. Mohammed Shukra, however, did get a relatively good start in comparison to his usual. He didn't get a good qualifying session, but he's managed to get a good start, and he is 4 places up from where he started. Meanwhile, Azrael Nazli has got the 2 Ferrari cars there. He has gone for a very fetching Jallo Gemilang livery, Jallo Gemilang being the flag of Malaysia. He's got that draped over that Z4 GT3 car, and he's got to really watch out, because behind him, Teguh Irshad is getting closer and closer. Within 0.2 of a second, that's less than a blink of an eye. This could be a slipstreaming maneuver coming into turn 1. They're getting closer and closer. Looks like Teguh Irshad is going to go for the dive up the inside there, and fortunately just couldn't quite get alongside far enough. Azrael Nazli closed the door, and it's going to be another lap or another half a lap before these 2 drivers can get into a position change situation.
So this is a great battle happening just slightly below the midfield mark. This is Azrael and Teguh Irshad behind there. So these 2 drivers have traded positions throughout the race. So it appears that Azrael is now 3 positions up from where he began from at 24th. He's now in 21st. And at this point, it could well work in their favor if they try to work their way towards closing up with the driver in 20th position right in front, who is Mark Lang.
Absolutely, Mark Lang, who is going on very quickly in that little rough, I believe. It's a little bit hard to tell for myself between a rough and a Porsche from this distance, but I do believe that's in fact the rough GT3 car, which a lot of drivers have said that it's old, it's not as technologically impressive as the well-modded GT3 cars, but it always amazes me how well these cars do. There are some drivers who just prefer the old rear-engine layout and the masses of traction that you get out of that car. But meanwhile, Azrael Nazli wouldn't be worrying about that too much. He's now got that Ferrari coming up from behind him. Teguh Irshad will be looking left, he'll be looking right, he'll be trying to see where he could go for that overtaking maneuver. They both go through 130 as quickly as possible. Azrael Nazli going into the grass in order to try carry as much speed as possible. And he feels like he has to defend coming into Casio Triangle, so perhaps Teguh Irshad beginning to get into the head of Azrael Nazli with racing. It's a mental game just as much as it is a physical one. And now as they come across the line, Teguh Irshad slightly further behind than before, but Azrael does have Mark Lange up ahead, who might act as a bit of a spoiler coming into turn 1. Let's see what happens through here. See who is going to gain the time, and Mark Lange looks like he's got off the road. He slid a little bit wide there, and that's allowed Azrael Nazli and Teguh Irshad to go through. So very unfortunate indeed for Mark Lange.
And we're now with Calix Poon, who is 2 positions up from where he began from. He's now sitting in 5th position, decked out in a brilliant looking, very nice looking Hong Kong paint scheme. Now, of course, he does race for his own Calioth racing team, which does feature drivers from all over the world. Of course, he is in fact teammates with Eric Wong. Just that they don't exactly run the same livery at this very moment, but usually they would. And it is right now kind of like a P1, P5 sandwich of Calioth team drivers, with Eric up top in first. Of course, between them are the drivers of Saiful Arifin, Yuan Xilin, and Pariwat Chugan. Now, these are the drivers that we're used to seeing up front at the pointy end of the grid during our sim races, Asian League races, and it is no different with this racing session here tonight. It's pressure, all the pressure is on them. It would appear that Yuan Xi has in fact sustained a little damage onto his brilliant looking Vapid Bullet for GT car there.
And I believe that was a radio transmission from Osik there. Just reporting in on the conditions right now, but meanwhile, Pariwat Chugan definitely trying to put the pressure on that sort of Vapid car up ahead. These 2 drivers in lockstep since the start of the race there, but Pariwat Chugan looks like he's going to be catching up to Lin at quite a rate through here, and this is where you get to see the differences between the guys at the sharp end of the field. Pariwat will be able to close in on Lin on certain sections of the course, and Lin will be able to pull away from Pariwat in other sections. So it looks like this particular lap, Paraguay is better under braking, but Lin has just a little bit more traction out of that Ford GT.
So now with Farid, and we're back with him. In fact, he sits in 11th, and he does sit behind Tai Xijian in yet another iRacing China rapid bullet paint scheme. You know, if you do zoom in, if you are able to see, in fact, the rear lid of the rear end of the Ford GT, you can see that there is a lot, quite a bullet insignia, as you would see in Grand Theft Auto 5, the specific car. Of course, he does sport the same paint scheme as Yuan, as I just said, and he is between he sits behind Mitchell Wee at this point and ahead of Farid. So this is another battle that may emerge in the next moments around the middle of the grid.
Simon. Happy Independence Day to you.
And that was Tinku Irshad on the radio, checking in on teams there. Meanwhile, when we're looking at another Vapid Bullet, this one is making moves up the front there. He is, Yang Shilin is challenging Saiful Arifin. It looks like Saiful Arifin is now let him pass, and now they're door to door going into the opening section of the S's there, and that looks to be a bit of a disaster for Saiful Arifin. Perhaps he outbraked himself just a little bit coming into the first corner there. Lin is now in second, and Parawan is in third position, but Saiful Arifin now down to fourth place. But trust you and me, he is going to try and push as hard as possible to try and regain that second place position. Meanwhile, our leader is still Eric Wong, who's managed to pull out a 5-second gap on this battle. So of course the challenge right now for these drivers is, as much as they are battling with each other, every time two cars battle with one another, they do tend to lose time to the car up ahead because they're not using the ideal racing line to get around the course. But that is the trade-off you have to try and sort of sort out amongst yourselves. Will it be better to work together or to fight for position?
So of course we are now towards the first third of the race. In fact, we are at the 15-minute mark, so we are still before the pit window. Pit window would open towards the middle of the race. And yes, in fact, on the front end of Yuan-Ti's car is in fact the flags of Singapore, Malaysia, as well as China. You see at the rightmost end of the front 4 flags, and towards the left is in fact the checkered flag, and in the middle, if you do have the opportunity to have a look at the front of the car, is the Vapid badge itself.
Absolutely. I'm actually amazed that these guys have managed to get that Vapid badge just right. I don't know if they did an asset rip-off of GTA 5 or if they had someone really, really talented do that logo for them, but I must hand it to them. From a distance, it really is, it makes me call it a Vapid now.
Yeah, so you know what's left for us for iRacing to do is to allow doors to be open and the windows to smash. Then we can just wait for the car to come around at the pit stop and smash the windows and grab the car from the driver. That's exactly what iRacing should do. This is Kelvin T and Andy So, who is battling with Mark Lang. Kelvin T has moved up to 23rd position, pushing Mark down to 24th, and we're riding on board the roof camera. It is the front end on my end, but the roof camera out there. So Mark is thinking of making a move into 130, but he will probably go a bit more conservative, as this is going to be Andy who's gone along the inside of Mark and dug that position out of Mark's hands. Mark moves down to 25th. He's coming under pressure from Shukran, who is in the Petronas AMG behind the N26. So Kelvin T leads this battle pack with Andy So in 24th.
That was an amazing overtaking maneuver, wasn't it? Halfway around the outside of 130R, absolute 100% trust from both drivers. That is the height of not only sportsmanship but just sheer driving ability from both drivers there. So a good shout out to the two of them. Andy So, however, does gain that position, and now he is chasing down Kelvin T. You can see how close he is getting up to the back of the driver up ahead, and there comes into a spin there. That is unfortunate for Kelvin T, and that looks like it's going to be a bit of a pile up coming into the S's there. Luckily that has gone through Kelvin T, obviously a little bit set on the radio there, but I'm sure he'll be able to get himself back up and running.
So if we do have an opportunity to have a look at the replay and see exactly what happened at that point. But of course we are racing on board, and yes, it would appear that contact did happen at this point. So if you have a look at the camera from this angle, you would see that it was a matter of both drivers having their racing lines converge, and unfortunately Mark did get tangled in that.
That's very unfortunate there for Kelvin T, who did in fact replace you for the previous round of the AIMC. So perhaps he did a very good job during the post-race show, and I'll be interested to see what he's going to say about that. I will ask him, just to be annoying.
Absolutely, man.
But Saifur Arfit is in 4th position, chasing down this battle, which has been going on for quite a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been, you know, like during the race we did say that, you know, this battle will go on for such a long time, and it is in fact going on all the way throughout. Right now we've already reached the midpoint of the race and it's still ongoing. But of course it was Saiful Arifin in 2nd. Right now it is UNC who's gone up to 2nd and Pariwat Shukan in 3rd. So, you know, these drivers have kind of rotated positions around. Pariwat still sits in 3rd, and no, actually he began from 5th and he's up to 3rd.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we've got some remarks from drivers. Of course, you know, with the race turning out, you know, with the heat being turned on, with the race going to this point, we have that's UNC, the Vapid, who's gone rapidly off track and he's lost 1 position, and he's now trying to fight to hold on to his 3rd position, to his 2nd position. So now he goes on very close indeed with Saiful Arifin. So he made a little bit of mistake along the exit of the 130. And we're riding on the roof camera, sorry. I'm so sorry, Max. I'm just gonna have to keep cutting you off. Saiful Arifin is going to try hard to retake a 3rd from Lin himself. Now, of course, Lin is one of the admins of iRacing China, and he's studying he's in fact in college at this point. He lives in the state of New York. Of course, he's very much a big player. He's very much involved in the iRacing China community, and it's also very, very nice to see him racing here.
Absolutely, that's fantastic to see sort of representatives of the major communities all around Asia competing for this Merdeka race. It really does bring me back to the real-life Merdeka race that used to happen at Sepang, the Merdeka Millennium Endurance race, which had an Asian-wide following. And we hope to see something of that magnitude here for this weekend. And don't worry about the cutting off bit. For those of you at home who are wondering why occasionally we do crash into each other, that's unfortunately just the delay in the Discord server, because I'm in Malaysia, he's in Singapore, and Khairul Alan, our director, is in Bangi, which might as well be in another country sometimes.
Oh, hi. Didn't realize you were talking to me.
We're now with Ilham Halabi, who that's a bit of a conversation from some drivers earlier on. So this is Ilham Halabi, who's still in the mid pack. He's climbed 15 positions to sit at 14th, where he is. Exactly where he is. Now it's not just us cutting each other off, Max. You know, we're also cutting off the drivers in the race.
We'll get there eventually, folks. But yeah, Ilham Halabi, he's another driver broadcast. He does have this habit of almost deliberately gimping his qualifying just to try and go for this sort of crazy last to first challenges. But if there's any driver that's out there that can do it, anybody who can be considered a specialist when it comes to overtaking, it's that man Ilham.
Back with UNC once again, but you know, it is worth noting. Oh, he goes around! He's gone rapidly around the spoon corner, and he's just lost a couple of positions as he now tries to rejoin the grid. Unfortunate for UNC, he was fighting so well up in 3rd and 2nd, and he's now dropped all the way down to 11th position. He's gone into the pits, and we're now riding with Tamizi Yusof, who is ahead of Ilham Halabi. Now, it is also worth noting that both Ilham and Bruno Cardoso, who sits in 15th, they both gained 15 positions from where they began from, and I think it is in fact the pit window, and drivers have gone into the pits. And I think that's UNC. He did not teleport to the pits, but he just went in there to probably do his fuel stop, and he's now rejoined the grid in 14th.
Absolutely. After a mistake like that, when you're that close to the pit lane window, it would make more sense in some circumstances to just go into the pits and repair the car there. Oh, Simon Sanchez there, high-speed spin from him. Let's see what happened there. It looked like there was a little bit of door-to-door racing, and unfortunately, a little bit of instability under braking, which has caused Simon and the other car there to go off the road. Very, very unfortunate indeed.
Guys, keep it clean, please.
There was a reverse entry by Simon Sanchez, unfortunately, through the first corner, and it would appear that there had been some things had turned. The heat had been turned on, which resulted in that contact. So we're now with Saiful Arifid and Ahmad Norisam. This is the battle.
What the hell are you doing, guys?
They're now fighting up in second and third position, so they've got some cars in the background there making making this all work.
Absolutely. Ahmad Norisam perhaps in a good position up there in third. Perhaps we're seeing some of the drivers begin to think about the pit lane strategy, some of the drivers shuffling themselves around to get into that sort of position. But Ahmad Norisam is definitely not going to try and lift off as Kai has gone into the pits.
So we've got more and more drivers making their way into the pits for their fuel stop. This is Ho Sekin and Tsai Sidian who did sit in 10th and 11th position respectively. They've gone into the pits. Eric Wong still sits out, and he is 9 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. So stellar performance by him all race long. He's been relatively untouched all race long.
Absolutely, and could we see a domination just like we saw in the warm-up race? For those of you who didn't catch the warm-up race, unfortunately Eric Wong got tangled up in a first lap incident, but he had one amazing comeback, really scything his way up through the field. Unfortunately, didn't quite get up to the top of the field, but I guess he's making amends for it right now in the championship race. The one that counts, ladies and gentlemen, and he is out there in the lead with a massive gap. He could be sitting very pretty when it comes to pit stops. It looks like he's got enough pace to sort of put a little bit of flexibility into his strategy. Ahmad Norisam now in third, still chasing down Saiful Arifid.
So we're now with Tamizi, who is putting the pressure hard on UNC. So of course UNC had lost some positions. It's down to 10th. Of course these drivers, they sit ahead of Ilham Halabi, who is in 12th, and we are now past the half-a-minute mark, and we are coming to a point where about half of the drivers have made the move into the pits for their pit stop. In fact, even more drivers have come in already.
Absolutely, I believe we're going to start to see positions being mixed around. Some of the drivers might be thinking of the undercut, trying to do something in order to respond to Eric Wong's fantastic pace up ahead there. Ahmad Norisam will be thinking about that as well. Some of the drivers as well will be pushing as hard as they can to try and get as deep into the race as possible to try and make that final stint as short as they can. Really turn it into a sprint race there, but it looks like the top 9 has not yet pitted. See a replay here of Andy. So on cold tyres, a very easy mistake to make. That's the first 2 or 3 corners coming out of the pits there. A real dangerous time indeed. And it looks like Andy So they're just on cold tyres, unfortunately, having the rear step out of it.
And we are now with Zainul Hasim having a look at the replay, and this is a similar mistake, going into the spoon corner, with these corners being off camber, it is easy to get messed up every now and then. You do kind of lose some of the grip as you go into the corner. This is Ahmad Norisam, who's in third, and he's sitting behind Saiful Arifin. They are in fact, the positions up here from second to fifth. They have kind of reshuffled throughout the race, and Eric Wong has gone into the pits for his fuel stop.
Absolutely. So this will see Saiful Arifin go up into the lead, I'm sure. But the question is, will Saiful Arifin be able to make up those 9 seconds that he was behind Eric Wong by the time he goes in to make his pit stop? So right now it's hammer time for Saiful Arifin. Let's see if he can really turn the heat up through these next opening laps. And of course for Eric Wong, he's going to worry about his virtual mechanics getting that car sorted in the fastest time possible.
So top drivers up in the top 5, top 6 have gone into the pits, and Eric is now returned to rejoin the rest of the race. And in the next couple of laps, we'll see even more drivers take it into the pits. So provisionally, Eric has gone down to second. Farid has gone to third. Farid is up in third. Mitchell Wee in fourth, and we've got Aman Norisam, Jaiswin Jali in fifth and sixth. So you can see here the drivers who have and have not made pit stops. So Saiful Arifin would be due to make his 1 pit stop in a moment's time. So do Farid and Wee. And that would also mean that these 3 drivers would probably drop a couple of positions once they finish their pit stops.
Absolutely. The trick now is to see how much of that gap between Saiful and Wong. It's 28 seconds at the moment. Will that be